Hello and welcome back to this little corner of the internet where we talk about life, love, and I show you my snippets of my life. And sometimes we do talk about books as well. We talk about everything from life to death and everything in between, basically. So, if you don't know who I am, hi, my name is Projeta, and I am currently in my second year, which is fourth semester of my BA degree, BA honors degree in English literature. And today we are going to talk about three books that everybody must read at least once in their lifetime. So this is not going to be a very long video, but I would suggest and I would recommend that you bring with yourself a cup of coffee or tea or something that helps you get through this video, because it will be a long video. Okay, hi, I am back, and the first book that I'm going to talk about today is, first of all, good morning, good evening, good night, from whichever corner of the world that you're watching, and whenever it is that you're watching, hi. With that done, the first book that we're going to talk about today is Booktube by Paulo Coelho. I think you must have heard about the author Paulo Coelho. If you have read any of his books, you would know about him, but one of his most popularly written books across the world of literature happens to be The Alchemist, which I read, I loved, and then I came across this book on probably Amazon or Flipkart, and it caught my eye. Now this book is a collection of I should not say musings, but it's a collection of pellets of wisdom which is brought out to you not directly in the form of didactic let's say aphorisms or quotes, but it's brought out to you in the form of anecdotes. So when I go into the book, there are these small, every page contains one singular anecdote that conveys to you either the meaning of life or something that you must be noting to yourself or must be aware of while you are living life. So I will read out to you some of the most heart-touching ones. So I basically dog-eared pages a lot. If you can notice, these are, so all the dog-eared pages are basically those that I consider to be very important to me. So I'll pick out one dog-eared page and I will read it out. So this book is about spirituality, about life, about God, and about how God cannot be explained, cannot be talked about, and cannot be illustrated or made a movie on, or cannot be brought into any tangible form of media or tangible form of physicality, and how everything that we do in life actually revolves in and around nothing but God. But it also does contain a lot of witty anecdotes. So you must, whether you are an atheist or a theist or just a seeker like this one, you should pick this one up. It's a great book. So I will read out to you one anecdote. The mystics say that when we set off on our spiritual journey, we tend to talk so much to God that we end up not listening to what He has to say to us. The Master says, relax a little. It isn't easy. We have a natural tendency to want to be doing the right thing all the time. and believe we can only achieve this by constantly working at it. It's important to try, to fall, to get up, to carry on. But we should allow God to help us. When we are working really hard at something, let us remember to look closely at ourselves. I repeat, when we are really working hard at something, it is important for us to look closely at ourselves and allow Him to reveal Himself and to guide us. And now and then, let us allow Him to sit us on His lap. That's how he writes. It's a beautiful book. That's a fairly didactic one. Okay. The juggler stops in the middle of the square, picks up 3 oranges, starts throwing them in the midair. People gather around, amazed at the skill and the elegance of his movements. Life is rather like that, someone says to the traveler. We always have 1 orange in each hand and 1 in the air. And that's the difference. The orange was thrown into the air with great skill and knowledge, but it has its own path to take. Like the juggler, we toss a dream into the world but don't always have control over it. We must then remember to surrender it to God and ask that in due course the dream may follow its path with dignity and fall fulfilled into our hands. It's a beautiful book, and there are so many anecdotes that I loved so much. I will read one last one. A novice asked Abbot Nisteros in the Cetis monastery, "What should I do in order to please God?" The abbot responded, "Abraham welcomed strangers and God was pleased. Elijah disliked strangers and God was pleased. David was proud of what he did and God was pleased. The tax collector in the temple felt ashamed of what he did and God was pleased. John the Baptist went into the wilderness and God was pleased. Jonah went to the great city of Nineveh and God was pleased." Ask your soul what it wants to do. Ask your soul what it wants to do. When our soul is in agreement with its dreams, that feels God with joy. So that is Booktube by Paulo Coelho. It's a must read. I will probably read this many more times at many different stages of my life. This is a book that I'll treasure throughout my life, and I hope that with every new stage of life that I come to or that I embark upon, this and its meanings will continue to bring out more novelty in my life. The second book that I'm going to talk about is a very simple book. It's by Ruskin Bond and it's called Notes from the Hills. Notes from the Hills, a book of simple living. So this is basically small private musings from Ruskin Bond's own journals, which have been collected and published in the form of a book. I have read much of Ruskin Bond since when I was very young. When I used to read in an ICSE board school, my teacher, English teacher, she introduced me to Ruskin Bond as one of the most lenient authors to get familiar with. And I started reading Lone Fox Dancing and his short stories and his best works, Time Stops at Shamli, then something at Dehradun, Scenes from a Writer's Life. Recently I came to read The Many Joys of a Good Life. That's his probably most recent book. I read many pieces from Ruskin Bond, and including his autobiography. and I probably read 2 or 3 versions of his autobiography. And among them all, what I found to be the best is what I'm presenting to you. Scenes from, Brief Notes from the Hills, a book of simple living. It so beautifully and charmingly encapsulates the little joys of life that we tend to overlook and don't pay much attention to. We don't pay much importance, or we don't properly tend to these moments with care and love and joy, and most importantly gratitude. And he so charmingly brings out the fact that life is not very grand. It is made up of these very small moments which kind of compound together to form one's life. Because not every day do you get an Oscar or a Nobel Prize or the BAFTA or the best book for International Booker Prize maybe. Life is so small, and it is so short, and it is so strange, and it is so eerie, and it is so beautiful, and it is just so full of these small moments that we need to pay attention to. And that, my friend, is exactly what Ruskin Bond does in this book. He takes these moments from Landour, Missouri, and he writes these small snippets of his day in a very journalistic form, which I love. I'll read some parts of it out for you. In one place he writes, "The universe is full of magical things patiently waiting for our wits to grow sharper." Then he says in another place, "If you want something very badly, don't try too hard to seek it out. Don't pursue it. Better still, don't want it badly. You can generally get success if you don't want victory. And it is not in mortals to command success." I will repeat that once more for you and for myself. If you want something very badly, don't try too hard to seek it out. Don't pursue it. Better still, don't want it badly. You can generally get success if you don't want victory. And it's not in the hand of mortals to command success. This is probably taken from a Zen or a Taoist book, because Ruskin Bond loves Zen and loves Taoism. So do I. He says each of us is a mass of imperfections, and to be able to recognize and live with our imperfections, our basic nature's defects of genes and birth, makes, I think, for an easier transit on life's journey. Then in another place he writes a musing on solitude, which I find so relatable, and I would love to read it out to you. He starts by this quote, "By all means use sometimes to be alone. Salute thyself, see what thy soul doth wear." It seems to me that most people are scared of solitude, for almost everything is carried out on a crowded scale. Clubs, wedding parties, sporting events, political meetings, victory parades, religious events, melas, even prayer meetings. The bigger the crowd, the more successful the event. Let a man be seen alone walking in the hills or the countryside, and he will be labeled an eccentric. For most people, loneliness is wrongly linked to unhappiness. I repeat, for most people, loneliness is wrongly linked to unhappiness, which is not true at all. Their minds are not deep enough to appreciate the sweetness and the balm of solitude. That is a book of simple living. On the back it says, "This journal records the many small moments that constitute a life of harmony with the self, with the natural world, friends, family, and passers-by." This is a must read. All these books are a 10 out of 5 stars for many reasons, because these are very multi-layered and Whether you're 18 or you're 20 or you're 25 or you're 30 or 40 or 60 or 55 or 75 or 80 or 90, when you pick these books up and when you read them, for every single one of you, your interpretation of these books will be so drastically different based on your mindset, based on your distortion, based on your filters, your prejudices. So I would urge you to open your minds, open your hearts, and go for these books. The last book that I'm going to recommend to you today is Tuesdays with Morrie by Mitch Albom. I'm not going to speak much about this because it's already 15 minutes. I'm already 15 minutes into recording this video. So I will end it here by saying that this is perhaps one of the best books on death which encouraged me to live, because this is told from the perspective of a dying man who happens to be the professor of Mitch Albom, who is a great working man, a great citizen, a great common man, but who begins to question the normality and the norms and everything once he meets his professor and starts taking classes again, but this time one-on-one, and not on history or geography or art or culture, but on very life itself. I will read out the blurb. Maybe it was a grandparent, a teacher, or a colleague, someone older, patient, and wise, who understood you when you were young and impassioned, helped you to see the world as a more profound place, and gave you sound advice to guide your way through it. For Mitch, it was Morrie Schwartz, the college professor who had taught him nearly 20 years before. Perhaps, like Mitch, you lost track of this mentor as the years passed, the insights faded, and the world seemed to be colder. Wouldn't you like to see that person again? To ask the bigger questions that still haunt you and receive wisdom for your busy life the way you once did when you were younger? Mitch Albom got that second chance, rediscovering Morrie in the last months of the older man's life. Their rekindled relationship turned into one final class, Lessons in How to Live. Tuesdays with Morrie is a magical chronicle of their time together. I love this book so much. I will read you one line from this, which I think will make you intrigued enough to pick up this book. Morrie continued. Most of us walk around as if we are sleepwalking. We really don't experience the world fully because we are half asleep doing the things we automatically think we have to do. And facing death changes all that? Asked Mitch. Oh yes, you strip away all the stuff and you focus on the essentials. You realize you're going to die, and when you do that, you see everything much differently. He sighed. Learn how to die and you will learn how to live. Learn how to die and you will learn how to live. This is also a very famous quote from J. Krishnamurti. And with that, today I will leave you here. Do not forget to stick around for the next video. Bye.